Welcome. I'm really flattered that you've taken the afternoon to spend with us, and we are going to make your 4 hours worthwhile. That's our promise. So here's the plan, our objective, right? With all EOS meetings, we start with an objective and an agenda, so that you leave with an actionable plan that increases the value you create using EOS and traction tools both. That your 4 hours that you spend, you come away saying, oh, I got some insight. I talked to some other people at my table, and I understand a few more of the features, and I get what's coming with traction tools, and that's going to help me simplify the way that I implement and run EOS within my practice. For my information, there we have three, and maybe for a little bit for yours, we have three different types of people in the room. There are those of you in the room that are currently running traction tools in how you run EOS. There are those in the room that are considering starting to use traction tools. You're running on EOS, of course, that's why you're at this conference. And then there are EOS implementers in the room. By a show of hands, so who in the room is currently a traction tools user, or your company is using traction tools? The vast majority of the room, sweet. Who in the room is considering using traction tools? You run EOS right now, but you're not using traction tools yet. Fantastic, welcome. And then EOS implementers in the room, myself included. We have a dozen of us or so. Just a little bit of background about me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been at entrepreneurship since '92, and I had my first business I started that went over $1 million in revenue. I've been an EO member, which is a peer group for entrepreneurs, since then also. I have been an EOS implementer now for 7.5 years, or 7 3/4 years. August will be my 8-year anniversary doing it. I've taken about 65 teams through the process, and I have a number of my clients in the room too that have come to support EOS and traction tools in the conference. I'm married, I live in Chicago, I have 4 kids, between 7 and 11 right now. So that's the short story. I'm an open book. As you see me around the conference, you're welcome to ask me anything. I just don't know what else would be interesting. This is our agenda in brief. We're going to talk about what's new now, what we found. This is the second year we've done a user conference. And what we found in Minneapolis last year is that a lot of our current users don't know about the features that have been released. And we have features that have been released just over the last 60 days, and a bunch of you that are currently traction tools users in the room may not know that they exist or are a live part of the software. And so we want to make sure that everybody that takes the time to attend this knows of all the value, and all of those features or improvements that are there for the same price you're currently paying. We're going to go through best practices on how to use it. I'm actually going to gather some information from you on some of the features where I want to hear, like, oh, that's how we use our workspace. I use it like this, and I have all my direct reports set their workspace up like this, and it's awesome. And so we're going to do some best practice sharing, as well as I'm going to offer some. And then we're going to talk about the new features that we have coming soon. And soon is a very deliberate term on here. As a young software company, we are learning the hard way not to promise when the new features will be out. So please don't ask me exactly when. You'll get the same answer. It's going to sound like soon. And it sure makes it a lot easier to keep promises. I know that this is not possible with to-dos and rocks, but it is possible at a user conference for software for me not to commit to dates. We're going to take a break, and then during that break, it'll be a pretty generous break for you to network and talk to each other, but then we're going to break into 3 separate rooms, which are the 3 things I had you raise your hand on. I'm going to stay with the EOS implementers, and we're going to talk about the value that it brings to our clients and how to get value from it as a coach. And then those of you that are considering using traction tools are going to go with Regis, and you're going to get a demo and all your questions answered. Ask anything. And those of you currently using it are going to go with Isaiah, and he's going to dive deep. That's going to look a lot like IDS in all 3 of those sessions. So with the pen in front of you and the journal in front of you, please write down questions as we go. We're going to take some questions in this room, but I think the majority of your questions will be most relevant and easiest to address when you're in the breakout sessions that we'll be running between 4 and 6. And then after 6 o'clock, between 6 and 8, we have open premium bar and some really nice dinner. And I really hope that everybody that's here, plus if you have other teammates that are flying in while we're doing this, that they can make it by 6 o'clock. Please come and join us for that. It was one of my favorite parts of the user conference last year. It was one of my favorite parts of the entire EOS conference, was hanging out with all of you. So please come do that. We are videotaping today, and that's why I just signed the video release. We will be looking for testimonial-like videos at the happy hour and the dinner also. So come prepared with your success stories. We found last year, after you had a few drinks, you were really generous with the testimonials. So that's what we're doing with the video. So that's breakout sessions and IDS and dinner together. Everybody good with our objectives and our agenda? So let me start by talking about the things that are currently a piece of the software that have been released and are live already. Some of these just in the last 2 weeks. So it would be completely normal if you were not aware of all of these. We've been obsessing over the last year on UI and UX. What those stand for is the user interface, which is graphically how pleasing the software is, and the UX is the user experience, and that's how intuitive the software is. We are a company that is 3 3/4 years old, something like that. Started by Clay. Clay is our founder, and I'm counted as a co-founder as I came on board 4 years ago exactly this month. So part of this in being a young company is that we're bootstrapped. And so we're learning as we go about all the best practices and how to serve you best, heavily taking feedback. Please be giving us feedback. You can be giving us feedback today and feedback offline all the time. We're a staff of about 35 people now and growing rapidly. And those things are challenging, as I'm sure that you know from being in business. The first thing I want to show is a video that was put out on YouTube a couple weeks ago, and this runs through a number of the features. And then I'm going to go through some slides, and I'm going to explain the features in greater detail and give you a chance to ask questions. But these are things that are live right now in the software. So that's on YouTube. And so as you leave this conference, I know your whole team is likely not here, that as you leave this conference, please go subscribe to our YouTube channel. There are tutorial videos and things that are released on a regular basis, and then you'll get a notification if you subscribe about new content on there. If you want to come back from this conference and show your leadership team, hey, there's some new features and traction tools that we can currently use, that's a really logical 4 minutes to spend with your leadership team. So the workspace. This can be one of the more valuable pieces of the software. Most of our clients are using it well, but not all. Some of our clients, some of you in the room, are using traction tools simply to run your level 10s, and you're in and out of there without the value of this workspace. Part of that's on us in that it's been a little bit more complex than it needed to be in the past. Now what's happened, as you heard on the video, is that it's designed in such a way that when you drop these boxes, they stick easier where they were supposed to go, and they don't get locked up. And so it's super easy to arrange this workspace and to size these tiles however you want. There are multiple workspaces, which especially if you're an integrator and you want to know how your departmental level 10s are going, this is crazy, crazy convenient. So you'll see the workspace tab that's pulled down here at the top. You've got a primary workspace, and that's often the leadership team workspace and all the data from that. But then you can have all the other departmental workspaces here, and you can arrange each one individually. Maybe you want to see more scorecard metrics in your sales leadership one than you want to see in some of the other ones, and you can decide what each workspace looks like. It does not impact what the workspace looks like for that team, but as the integrator, you can easily, with this pull down, flip back and forth between the workspaces and see what's transpired in that. You can also, skipping forward one of the slides that's coming, but what was on the video said that you can send an email summary of the meeting to anybody. You can just put that email address in there. I have some integrators who not only have set up the separate workspaces for each one of the departmental teams, but they also subscribe themselves to an email summary of each one of the departmental teams' level 10s. And so as soon as the level 10 concludes, the integrator gets a summary of that, which issues were solved. You can see which to-dos were taken, of course. And knowing your business like you know your business, you'll know which to-dos go with which issues were solved. And you can see what the meeting was rated and how many issues they got through. And it gives the integrator a whole new depth of tools when managing the department teams or your direct reports. So the workspaces, you can set up all kinds of custom workspaces. You can grab data from anywhere in your organization and have it on any one of these workspaces. And then with simple clicks, you can see the workspaces that you've developed. And you can set whichever one you want to be your primary one so that when you log in, you get that one. I have found it to be more useful to have multiple workspaces where I can see the stuff on one screen. What I used to have was one workspace where I had to scroll vertically and horizontally to get to all the different tiles. This makes it much simpler to view the information. I'm going to ask you for some best, let me ask right now on this, and then when we get to the slide later, I want to ask for some best practices or the thing that you love about your workspace. If I could get 2 to 4 of you to share something like, holy cow, the thing I use all the time, I'm in that workspace multiple times a week and I'm looking at this kind of data, or I'm using it for this way for my own to-dos or rocks or scorecard. Could I get somebody in the room that's passionate about, and we'll have a mic runner named Charlene, who has some use of their workspace that they love and is brave? There, brave, right in the middle.
So we have a small company that...
Just give us your name and stuff first.
Ashley Tucker from McKee Homes in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Thanks.
So I set up everyone's Traction Tool account when they come on, and I set up their workspace for them the same way. So that way we can train them that before you go into your level 10, you go through your workspace and it prepares you for your level 10. And you've seen the scores go up over time because they're more prepared using that.
Sweet. And so that is very directly hit the workspace before the level 10, come prepared. If you are remote or you're on the road not in front of your computer, you can do the same kind of prep in the app. And I'm going to talk about how using the app and the workspace and how they mesh together so well. Somebody else? Brave? Oh, you're seating somebody. I thought you were. Let me move on, and then we'll go on. If you have other best practices that you want to share later, please let me know. So accountability chart. This is an incredibly complex thing to have be made simple. It's had some really sweet updates here just over the last month. Now, of course, it pulls everybody's picture in. You can easily drag and drop boxes. And instead of editing within the box, you're editing on the right-hand side, which gives you a lot more tools to work with. And then on the video, you saw that you can recenter some of the buttons that are up top, and you can also determine what layers of depth. What is coming soon on this is friendlier printing. Right now, the printing of it, okay. we know. So it's made much better on screen. So this was the first priority, is to make this great on screen. And then the secondary priority is going to be with your quarterly printouts or any other reason that you're printing this, that it's going to be much friendlier and easier to present. And ultimately, it'll be easy enough that you can print this for your state of the company or whatever you're doing quarterly in front of everybody, that you could, if you have a large printer, or you could take it to FedEx office and you can get yourself a large format of this. These are the two features that the video is talking about. The quarterly printouts to your implementer is made super simple here. The implementers often don't have access to your data within here, but yet want your quarterly printouts. You can go in here and set how the quarterly printouts get automatically sent to your implementer on whatever interval that you want. But the default, and the one that we know has value, is that on 12:01 a.m., just after midnight, on the day of your session, your quarterly offsite, that'll automatically send the quarterly printout packet. And if you're not using the quarterly printout packet, please be using that. It is formatted so that it is in exactly the order that you go through the agenda during the quarterly offsite. Whether you're using an implementer, or you've now graduated and you're doing it on your own, you want to be using that packet. It will correspond perfectly with the agenda for the day and makes it super simple to find all your tools. The other thing, the bottom one on here, is to describe any email address that automatically sends your level 10 meeting summary. This is, of course, I already mentioned for integrators, but we also find some owners and board members that want to have this information also. It depends on how involved they are, of course, and owners and board members come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. But this is a really easy way, and you can do it for any level 10 that's going on. not simply the leadership level 10. You think, man, who would just really like to be in the know about this information? And I have some clients where this saves them a half-hour phone call on a weekly basis for updating somebody that's important to their business. And they're just like, hey, I'm getting the summary of that. I can see the issues that are being solved and the to-dos that are being created. I see to-do completion percentage. I see, the meeting rating. I'm completely comfortable with that. Save yourself some time. Satisfy the people around your business and their curiosity. This also has become a really useful place. This is where you get when you go to the Manage button on the right-hand side of any of your meetings. And on top of the things on the bottom 2/3 of the left-hand side, you can click on the rocks and the scorecard or the to-dos or the people headlines up top. So this is the VTO and a couple features that have been requested for a long, long time that are now live. And the one is the editing of the words revenue, profit, and measurables on the 3-year and on the 1-year and on your rocks. And of course, rocks are on the second page of this on the traction side of the document. And so it's really common in my client base that we have 3 to 6 key numbers. Often revenue and profit are 2 of those 3 to 6 key numbers, but there are 3 to 6 key numbers that we set goals for every single quarter. And then when we report at the state of the company on those, we say, hey, well, we hit 4 of our 6 key numbers this quarter, and we got 5 out of our 6 company rocks complete. And that's how the talk or the reporting on this goes at the state of the company. Well, there is at least 25% of my clients that don't report profit exactly in a net profit way. They have their own version of profit. Sometimes it's gross. It depends on the business model, right? There's some gross margin numbers. There's some gross profit numbers. There's some variations of profit, of EBITDA, and add or subtract a couple initials from that. So now you can put whatever they actually are in here. And some of my clients don't have revenue in the same way. Revenue is called something different within their organization, and so you can make these all specific to yours. You can also, if you don't already, upload your logo to the VTO, and you can alter the colors on the VTO to match your company colors. And so if you're printing this VTO out to share it with employees or to have a conversation, hey, big guy. Dustin's a client of mine from Lincoln, Nebraska from 6.5 years ago. Yes. So, and Dustin's partner in business, Jay, is a co-founder of Traction Tools. So he's our third partner in the mix, Clay and I and Jay. So within the VTO, you've got those that you can do. Also, this has been live for 6 or 7 months or longer, but yet I run into users of Traction Tools that don't know it exists, is that it supports multiple marketing strategies. And boy, it's probably 70% of my clients that have more than one target market that they go after. And so you'll see down there where you've got strategy 1 and strategy 2, but unless you mouse over it or hover over it, you don't get to see that there's a second strategy that's possible there. And they just keep opening up like tabs in an Excel spreadsheet. So if you have more than one target market within your business, please be documenting them thoroughly right here. This is also something that we talked about at last year's user conference. It's been expanded and is even more robust now, but that the scorecards support formulas, like Excel supports formulas, and all the scorecards in your organization are linkable. So what that means is as you've rolled out EOS to the department level 10s, and you've got the sales department scorecard with all its granularity, right? Every single salesperson or business development rep has all the number of calls they made that week and their results, and they've all got 2 to 3 items on the scorecard as they should, that those things can all come together with some formulas and auto-populate the leadership team's scorecard such that the sales leader doesn't have to go in and do that work, or somebody in the sales department doesn't have to go in and do that work. It will also support formulas so that you can take the data that's in your scorecard and have it populate other cells, or you can take the data from departmental scorecards, run it through a formula, and have it populate cells in other departments or on the leadership team scorecard. Any of this stuff, we are heavy on client success or the amount of service that we provide. You know that what you pay includes unlimited service on the phone or through email in any way that you want. We'll be there to take care of you. So the first time that you go through and you want to connect scorecards or use formulas for the first time, get on the phone with one of us. We're happy to walk you through that. hold your hand, do the formula for you, show you how to connect it. We're happy to do that with you 7 times or more until you've got enough repetition that you're comfortable doing it yourself throughout the organization. But just be sure to be in touch. Use us. We're super responsive and we love helping. It's one of our core values. So make the scorecards and traction tools do a lot of this work for you. The goal with traction tools is that you are saving an enormous amount of leadership energy in the running of EOS within your business. And leadership energy is the most expensive energy in your organization. Please be using the tool fully to save yourself as much leadership energy as you can. So this is what we call a quarterly wizard. We had teased this a year ago. And this, I'm going to use a very technical term here, we've super simplified this such that when you come back from your quarterly and you're updating traction tools with all the new information, this is unfuck-upable. It's a very technical term. It's the only way I can drop an F-bomb in front of this many people and get away with it. So what this does is it walks you right through, if you look on the left-hand side, every aspect of your offsite. It'll require you to put in the dates of your next offsite. We're referring to those as date anchors, but so that the software can be more intelligent and help you better, it really needs to know when your next offsite is and how far along you're coming. Like for a simple example is the milestone feature in the rocks, that it needs to know, when the next offsite is to know exactly where your milestone fits on that timeline. So this is called the Quarterly Wizard. You can take pictures at your offsite of all the whiteboards or the flip charts or in the leadership team manuals if individual rocks are in there, and you can just give those pictures to somebody's assistant that's happy to keep it confidential, and you can delegate the updating of the things that went on during your level 10. So it doesn't have to be somebody on the leadership team that goes in there. And in the past, it's been unclear if you missed something. Man, I went and updated, I archived the old rocks and I entered the new rocks, and I know we changed one scorecard metric and we decided on this new thing on the accountability chart, and then they're unsure if they had missed 1 or 2 things about completely updating the software for the coming quarter. This makes it so that you cannot bypass any of the things that need to be updated. So it'll walk you right through all the new quarterly stuff, and they're updating the tools. So this is add the new quarter where you add the dates. This is the tool update, so you go through the VTO, the accountability chart, and the scorecard. Often you've tweaked a number of these tools during your offsite. So this is where you're going to go through and add all those. This is where you archive your past rocks. You're going to mark them done or not done, and then archive. On to adding your new rocks, of course, in all their specific glory. And then one of my favorite parts of the offsite is coming up next, issues list cleanup. That's adding milestones to rocks. And then lastly, the to-dos that were created at the offsite. So this is a feature that is going to save extra leadership energy and time, certainly. This is a feature that's coming. It's not live right now, but it's super close. And I know that Clay doesn't want to make a promise, but when is the what's the version of soon that this one is?
So this is going to require just a little bit more polish to make it perfect. Maybe in the next 2 months.
2 months. When he tells me privately, he tells me sooner dates, but that's our safe date for in front of a large crowd. Okay? So if you've recently had your offsite, this will be done before your next one. So by a show of hands, I want to know how many people in the room are using the app. the Traction Tools app. So that's 30% probably, I would guess. Please start using this. It is crazy valuable. So it's intended to be a simple piece of the puzzle, and that's why the surgical knife, right? A really sharp instrument that is good for one thing, but does that one thing super well. So this has 5 main features. You can see your to-dos, your rocks, and your scorecard metrics. And then you can add issues and you can add people headlines. If you want to think of it like this, it is meeting preparation. You can see all of the meetings you're in on here. A lot of you are in 2 level 10s, and you've got 1 or 2 same page meetings. So you have somewhere between 2 and 4 meetings that you're managing using Traction Tools and running EOS in your business. And we'll talk about same page meetings in a little bit. So with this, download it, it's free, there's no extra cost to this. It takes the same username and password as the website access takes. And I'm in this all the time. In particular, if you have employees that are away from their desk, think sales reps out in the field or visionaries, and if you're not in front of your computer, this is the lifeline to staying up to date on all the promises that you've made. I'll tell you the other thing for me, I turned 50 this year, and my brain forgets stuff. Maybe I'm the only one, but man, it is quite crazy how I remember an important thought, and I need to get it captured in the next minute, or I could forget it for another 3 days. And so what I'm doing with the app all the time is throughout the whole week, I'm adding issues to the issues list for the meetings I'm in, the level 10s and the same page meetings. And this does away with the distraction where with either one of your direct reports or your boss, you are texting them or calling them or sending them an email with your thought of the moment, when 95% of it can wait till the next same page meeting or level 10 that you're in with them. Because 95% is my own number. I just find that most of it is not nearly as urgent as I think it is. And I know that other leader is working on something important. And because I'm a business owner and my text comes through, sometimes it gets attention, right? And I don't want to distract my people from what they're working on. I want to put it into the level 10 or the same page meeting. Most of the time when this comes up for me is right before, while I'm falling asleep, I think of an issue or a to-do, right when I wake up or when I'm in the shower. And I think the reason that the shower is what it is because there's no distractions in there. I don't have any technology in there. There's nobody else in there with me. It is a distraction-free place, and my brain thinks of things that I have forgotten about. Man, I forgot to do that 2 days ago. I need to get that written down. And I get out of the shower and I grab my phone, the app, and I add the issue to the appropriate meeting that I'm in. Yeah, let me get you a runner. Do you have a mic?
On the to-do side, how do you specifically, my partner David here is involved in 7 different level 10 meetings.
Yeah, sorry.
If he wants to add one to the accounting level 10 meeting on the app, the only place it looks like you can add it is on the individual to-dos.
That is true. And that's set up that way for purity's sake. Part of it is that when you make your to-do promises during your level 10, that's your most sacred to-do promises. And you're promising with 90% certainty, I'm going to get that done by the next level 10. Within EOS Pure, we don't want people to take to-dos midweek that have that same level of promise attached. So you're only able to add level 10 promises during the level 10 meeting. Otherwise, what we find is that some heavily visionaries, I don't know if you're a visionary or integrator, but heavily visionaries can be on a plane with internet access and be spraying to-dos across their team. And if they're able to be in the level 10 to-do list, which has this sacred promise attached, the people in your team need to be able to say no to those. So when you're in a level 10 and you say, can you take this to-do this week? They say, no, I don't have any capacity this week. They have to be able to accept it in order to keep their 90% promise. And so that's why You're not able to add level 10 to-dos to somebody's, but you can add personal to-dos in there. So the level 10, I have completely drank this Kool-Aid. I think it's the most brilliant meeting agenda. It is the most productive 90 minutes of a leadership team's week when done well. And the same page meetings are also really amazing and using traction tools, and those are one-on-one meetings. I want to encourage you to have more level 10s and less same page meetings. I find the most powerful leaders get more done in a small group setting than they do when they're one-on-one. And part of it is because of the peer pressure that comes with the other folks. It's not just that you're communicating to 6 people all at the same time. There is peer pressure that exists amongst the people in that meeting that do you a lot of favors as a leader. So if you're a leader that is in 1 or 2 level 10s, but you're in 5 or 6 same page meetings, please take a look at that and see what you can do to have fewer same page and more level 10. And there's a red flag for me as an implementer if you are having more intimate conversations or more open and honest conversations in your same page meetings or one-on-one than you're willing to have in the level 10. That's a red flag that there's something that's not as healthy about your culture as there could be. We want the level 10 conversation to be the real, most open and honest conversation that's going on within the organization. Okay? So the app also supports, you saw that you can add attachments to issues when you're on the website now. You can also add attachments to the people headlines when you use the app. And I'm a big advocate so that when you're out on a job site and you're taking a picture of what's going on the job site or the person that's running that job site, you can take a selfie and add it to the people headlines. Please have your people headlines be more graphically interesting by attaching photos to a lot of your people headlines. And people headlines is mostly good news sharing. It's so that the leadership team can be in the know about what's going on within each department. So that next time you walk by that person's cube, somebody shares from ops, like Sally in ops told me that she was pregnant. And I asked if it was okay to tell, and she said, yeah, it's okay, and she's 13 weeks. And so then next time the leadership team walks by Sally's cubes, you go like, hey, high five, I heard the great news, congratulations. And Sally is like, man, the leadership team here is really in the know. They get what's going on across the whole organization. That's what people headlines is about. And I find it so much more interesting if it can be, there can be pictures attached to it. And so the app supports that. Please be using pictures and adding them to your people headlines for your level 10 meetings. When you get to a level 10 meeting and there's a bunch of people headlines already populated and there's a bunch of issues that have been added throughout the week, those are often the best level 10 meetings. People have been thinking about things as they came up, either issues or people headlines, and grabbing them. Yeah, go ahead.
Question concerning people headlines. Sometimes we'd like to have communication of everybody in the organization, and headlines typically just goes to a level 10. Is there some way that you can share like cascading messages that can go to all level 10 so you can truly cascade it out? Right now that doesn't seem like a feature that's there. That
is not a feature that exists. I think it's an interesting idea. Is somebody from Traction Tools writing stuff down? Yeah, Clay's writing stuff down. Yeah, I'm happy to think about that idea. And email is how you would perceive it being.
Maybe the leaders are to do to take it to their level 10 and then they talk about it.
Right. Or even if you could take a people headline and share it with all level 10s in the organization with a single click so that when all the departmental level 10s and lower got to their level 10, this people headline would be sitting there. Seems like that would be a logical thing. Super, thank you. I know it was a question, but more of a suggestion, thanks. So those 2/3 of you in the room that aren't using the app, please start using the app. It will help you run better meetings if you add issues throughout the week and add people headlines throughout the week. Question, Regis.
So is this a free app?
It's free, yeah. Well, you're paying for Traction Tools already, so it's included, I guess, is a more appropriate answer.
Awesome. I'm curious, just in general, a lot of times people headlines might include performance issues,
Yes.
negative things for us. Is that incorrect?
No, that's correct. Like 80% positive and 20% negative, and it's the 20% of people headlines that are negative are the ones that become issues, of course. But I've run into clients that only use people headlines as negative things, And that's not the highest and best use of it. I think both functions are really great. You've got 5 minutes to get up to speed, and it's not simply employees. Let's make sure that we're clear. It's because your business, I don't care what your product or service is, you're in the people business. We all are. So it's vendors, joint venture partners, it's customers, and it's employees. And all of those types of people you should be getting up to speed. And none of the sharing, I think, should be over 20 seconds each. So in a 5-minute people headline, man, you get caught up on 8 to 15 people headlines, meaningful stuff throughout the organization, and the leadership team is just known for being in touch with what's going on with our people. If you lose customers, like with Traction Tools, heaven forbid anybody ever quits using the software, if we do have a customer that stops, it goes on people headlines, and it gets talked about during the level 10. Sometimes an issue gets created from it, sometimes it's just so you know. So, customers that leave you, big customer wins, all kinds of stuff can end up on that people headlines. It can be a super valuable 5 minutes of the meeting if you invest energy in populating it with these things. Thanks for asking. The app's been around a year and a half or something. Year and a half, something like that. It's always been part of the puzzle. For me, I'm not on my laptop much, and so it was always something that I craved. And before the app, and still a feature that exists, is the text an issue and text to people headline feature. That goes back to about 3.5 years ago, and that feature is still live, and we have no intention of killing that feature. If you have a place in your world that you would much rather be texting issues or texting people headlines, you can do that right from your text message. I personally, once I started using the app, I stopped using the texting feature, but there may be instances where you want the texting feature also. One thing I do want to bring up about the app is that the app in its default settings holds your username and password for about 2 weeks, so you don't have to go search and log in, which I find super convenient. And I have a password on my phone. It's Face ID now, and so in my phone is just my phone. I don't let my kids play with my phone and other things. But if you don't have a passcode on your phone and the Traction Tools app holds your username and password for 2 weeks, if somebody does get your phone unlocked and knows enough where to go, they can get in there and see your scorecard and see your issues and all these other things. I just want to bring that to your attention. But I assume everybody's locking their phone. But if you don't, or if you're a little loose about who has access to your phone, you just want to be aware that the app does store your username and password and that you don't have to enter it each time. If you don't go in there for more than 2 weeks, then you have to re-enter it. All good? Sweet. Sweet, sweet. I am a huge proponent of the workspace equals the app. These things are getting, do you know within EOS, there are 4 places your name can be next to an accountability. 4 places. Who wants to holler them out? Holler out one of them. There's a couple of them are easy. Rocks for one. Scorecards for another. To-dos. Accountability list. Accountability chart. Yeah, roles. Yes. So those are the 4 places that your name. In all of EOS, these are the 4 places that you could be accountable for something. And the scorecard and the accountability chart are your regular job, right? Your rocks are your special projects. So that's why the app and the default workspace obsesses about these things that you could be accountable for. Your to-dos, your scorecard, and your rocks. So here's the best practice that I preach all the time. So this is your workspace, right? And the default has these things on there. You can set it up so it only shows you your own rocks, your own to-dos, and your own scorecard metrics, if that's what you want to be obsessing over. Or you can look at the entire team's rocks, scorecards, and to-dos. You choose which tiles you want. There's an unlimited amount of data that it can pull from your organization and put on these workspaces to make you more effective. Here's what I'm a proponent of within my client base. That you set up Traction Tools to be a default tab that opens on your browser. And not many people know how to do this. So Chrome is the browser that it's optimized for. So please be accessing Traction Tools through Chrome. Otherwise you will find things that look like bugs, and they're not. It's just optimized for Chrome, and 75% of the world's using Chrome. So please use Chrome. And in those 3 buttons in the upper left-hand corner, which I think are purposely hidden, that it's nearly impossible to find these features. You go there, you get to a bottom of a list where it says Advanced Settings, and then at the bottom, the very, very bottom of the Advanced Settings, you'll find this feature here where it says Open a specific page or set of pages when you open the browser. And if you want to get maximum value out of your EOS implementation and using traction tools, require that everybody that's in a level 10 or a same page meeting has the app on their phone, and that their browser, their Chrome browser, automatically opens up the home page of the workspace of traction tools. And it holds your password in there, so you don't have to re-enter that. And then for me, there's about 6 business systems that I'm in all the time, and so I have it so that all 6 of those tabs automatically open up. I mean, it saves like that 4 minutes at the beginning of each workday to go through and open up all your systems. It's just automatically there, and have traction tools be one of them. And so it's just right in your face, your to-dos, your rocks, and your scorecard. Whether you're on the app, you're out of the office, or you're on your computer and you're in the office, it's just automatically there by default. You don't have to go search for this. And then on both the app and the workspace of traction tools, there's a place you can add people headlines and add issues, and of course add personal to-dos. So that you've got all the tools right there by default in both cases. I feel like I've just repeated myself, but I'm really passionate about this. I do think these really simple uses can get you some incremental improvement. And if just doing these 2 things get your EOS implementation 5 to 10% more effective, because there's just a couple extra to-dos getting done, it adds up throughout 52 weeks. Please be doing the simple free stuff. You're already paying for EOS, you're already paying for traction tools. Let's at least use the features that are here. Yeah, go ahead.
So on your home screen, can you actually put just pieces of a scorecard or only a whole team scorecard? Like if you wanted to just see specific metrics and not the entire scorecard from one of the L10s?
I know that you can see your own accountabilities and you can see all of the entire scorecard for that meeting. I don't know if you can be more selective. Can you stand up when you're speaking, Clay? Thanks.
The Client Success Department can help you set up a scorecard with customized measurables, for sure.
So you can pick and choose which things you want to see and which things you don't?
That's correct.
Okay, sweet. And were you asking because some things are confidential and you wouldn't want some of your folks to see some of the metrics?
No, it's actually more for my own use I don't want to see all the metrics from another leadership, team's meeting, but I want to see some of them.
Okay, yeah, so from one of the departments.
So I'd have to actually create my own scorecard and pull the metrics that I want to see in.
Got it. So get in touch with Client Success and they can help you set up a custom one. When you get how many in the room are an integrator? Man, for you guys, set up those custom workspaces so that you can see each one of the departmental teams. It's amazing how one click and you have access to everything that's going on within that department. And at a glance, you can spend 30 to 60 seconds glancing at that, especially as you look at the scorecard going red and green. You can come up with some conclusions in 30 to 60 seconds before you meet with your leader of that department, and you're just super in the know about what's going on. I'm inspired by how easy it is to get the information as soon as you're really fluent in EOS. Was Regis trying to get the mic? Oh, there you are. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I saw you crawling that way.
You may have answered this, I'm not sure. Can you control who can see, like, for instance, issues? If we have one issue, it's discussing a personnel problem. I don't necessarily want somebody in one of the departments seeing those issues.
Yeah.
Can you
So the default is that you can see the issues for the meetings that you're in, and you can see the issues for meetings that are below you within the organization. But you can't see the issues as you look up. And that seems to be a default that works for most people. Right here and then over. Oh, you want to go first? Go ahead.
Is there an automatic notification feature? Something like your rock is due in 33 days, or something like pinging a visionary who has to-dos that really shouldn't, but sometimes they do?
So right now you can set it up on your to-dos so that it will send you a daily email reminder of any undone to-dos. It's a little like taking a hammer to somebody's head, but but it is, correct me if I'm wrong, Clay or Isaiah, somebody, it is a feature though, you can get a daily email with your not done to-dos, right?
Yes, just to-dos, not rocks.
Just to-dos, not rocks.
I should have said app specific.
Oh, that you want it to pop up there like a notification. Yeah. Somebody's writing down potential features, right? Thanks. And then on rocks, I do have this, as we require when you use the quarterly wizard to put in your next offsite date, the software will know how many days before your next one, and then of course it'll know what your rock completion percentage is so far. At some point in the future, I have a vision that it'll send some gentle reminders, like, hey, just 3 weeks to the offsite, your rocks are 50% done, now would be time to buckle down, maybe throw a couple Hail Marys. You know, let's get you to 80% before the 3 weeks is up. Yeah, take it away.
I'm a fractional integrator out of Detroit, and I'm wondering, would this work with multiple clients through one main login for myself?
It's a good question for somebody other than me. Clay?
Yes, you can attach multiple organizations to the same account.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have a question about like recurring to-dos. Is there a way to set up a recurring, because every Thursday, you know, a team member has to do something instead of entering the to-do, completing it, and then putting on, and like moving it forward to the next week? Is there a way to do recurring?
Boy, not that I've come across, but does somebody have a workaround that you're using within our software? Or Clay, do you have an answer to that question? So this is a to-do that you have to do this thing each week. And you'd like to use the to-do feature within the level 10 or traction tools to do it.
I don't have a good solution.
Yeah, I think what we're experiencing is...
Can you give her the mic? Where's this?
I think what we're experiencing is like we were changing the due date, but then it was lowering your completion rate. And that was not, I mean, we watch our completion rates pretty closely. And so since it was interfering with that, we would just complete it and then add it again the following week. But that's just a little time consuming. And that's why we were hoping.
And then in your issue, you have a button make it to do. It makes it real quick for you. You just have an issue that stands out on your issue list all the time. And you just
Gotcha.
And I'll repeat what you're saying into the microphone here. He's saying if you have an issue on the issues list, I hope that everybody's using those context-aware buttons. They are to the right-hand side of the to-do. And what it does is it brings the data of the issue and any notes that are in the notes section with the to-do. So often I'm putting like a person's name and phone number in there to call during the IDSing of it, and then I use the context-aware to-do, and on the app when I'm looking to call the person, it's right there in the notes from the to-do, and I just click on it and dial. What you're saying is that you could just have a standing to issue that you click that button, it's just one click and it becomes a to-do for that week, and it'll automatically put it 7 days out, and then just don't delete the issue. Just let the issue sit there, and every week that you go into your issues list, click the to-do button and it'll create a new to-do for it that week. That's the best we got. Yeah, that's your workaround for now.
We do have integrations coming, so if you have a Zapier account, you could set up a recurring to-do to be generated automatically.
There's a slide coming on integrations here too. So everybody good on the workspace and the app, and combining these two things and raising the exposure to the to-dos, the rocks, and the scorecard metrics, either that person's accountable for or they're looking at everything. And this becomes an amazing set of tools as an integrator to help run the departmental teams more effectively in how you're coaching your direct reports. So maybe you don't have to be in every departmental level 10. So this is where I was asking earlier about workspace layout. Does anybody, now that we've talked about it a little bit more, have anything else that they want to share about something they love about how the workspace is laid out? Otherwise, I'm going to move on. But if you have something, raise your hand. Let's move on. I thought we had a good conversation about it. I want to talk about same-page meetings. I touched on it already once. I find that some folks don't fully utilize this part of EOS and this tool. Sometimes I'll talk to people, especially self-implementers that have been doing it for a couple of years, and they'll say, what is a same-page meeting? And I'll be like, holy cow, we have these two meeting structures within EOS. We have level 10s for teams and same-page meetings for one-on-ones. The best leaders do a lot more level 10s than they do same page meetings, but there are completely legit reasons to be having a same page meeting. They originally come from the integrator and the visionary getting on the same page every week about what's most important, such that the visionary can let go and allow the integrator to run the organization. And I always say to my clients, the visionary's in charge of what's most important, the integrator's in charge of how it gets done. That the what is with the visionary and the how is with the integrator, and what the same page meeting was originally came up for was between Gino and Don Tinney. Amber, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the visionary and integrator at EOS Worldwide getting on the same page about what's most important so that the integrator then can go ahead and make it happen. It also can keep your visionary from micromanaging the team if they are completely heard about what's most important, that they've been heard and their priorities are high priorities. And then we say to the visionary, please don't interfere with how the team wants to get it done. That would fall into the micromanagement part of this. If you've got a solid team, they're capable of figuring out the best way and the how to do this. So that's where the same page meeting originates from. But then I find that some integrators with other leadership team members, their direct reports, they're like, 3 of my direct reports are just fine. The level 10 is plenty of information we need to be fully synchronized for our week. But there's 2 of my leaders that need more, we need more communication than that. And instead of having ad hoc conversations where you walk into my office and we piss away 45 minutes kind of wandering around 3 different topics, let's run it using the EOS best practices. And the standard agenda on same page meetings is super straightforward. You check in with each other. Hey, what's the good and bad stuff going on for you? So I can be clear where you're at as a person right now before we start this conversation. We build an issues list and then we IDS. And in some versions of this, we IDS until all the issues are solved. That is how the same page meeting goes. We'll schedule it for 2 hours and we'll leave as soon as all the issues are solved. Let's hope we get out of here in 45 minutes to an hour. But at least those 2 leaders in the organization are completely on the same page. They can be weekly. They can be twice, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every month. I do have integrators that I coach that start when they get a new leadership team member. They'll have a same page meeting weekly for the first couple months, and then it goes to every 2 weeks, and ultimately they stop having the same page meeting. It's a crutch to get the person up to speed and on board and to get to know their leader really well. So use it however you want. I'm advocating that you use traction tools to do it. There's no extra cost to set up an extra meeting in here, and it can hold the issues lists, and then from your workspace or your app, you can be adding these issues all throughout the week. So you get to your same page meeting, and there's already a list of 5 to 7 important things there. And so the building the issues list function goes really fast if you've both been working and adding things throughout the week. You still prioritize it by most important like you do in a level 10, and you start with the top priorities, and you IDS them the same way you IDS other issues when you're working with a team, and you take to-dos the same way that you take to-dos, and those to-dos are due at the next same page meeting. They're not due at your next level 10. Mike coming right behind you.
So you just mentioned that you could add issues from your app. The app only puts it into your level 10. So is there an option that you can put into a same page meeting or a level 10?
Yes. On the app for the issues and the people headlines, there's a pull down, and all the meetings that you are a member of, you can see there, and then you add the issues to the appropriate meeting. I have a couple different organizations, and so I'm constantly adding things to one specific meeting or another. One more question over here. Oh, I didn't see you. Stand there. Stand up, Jay. Jay is the 3rd co-founder and partner in Traction Tools. It's Jay and Clay and I are in this together. And Jay and I first met through EO like 10 years ago or something, and then we worked together for 3 years. I was Jay's implementer in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we had a great ride. Dynamic entrepreneur, though, folks, if you get a chance to talk to him at the conference.
I wanted to add a little context to the same page meeting in ways that I've seen it have remarkable, almost transformative results with absentee owners of companies. If anyone here is dealing with owners that aren't day-to-day involved in the company, the same page meeting format is magical for connecting them to the organization in a way that they're not like putting their hands in everything and they're only dealing with the integrator and the visionary in a separate monthly or quarterly same page meeting. I've seen it have transformative results for companies that are dealing with that. And the same with smaller companies that have active boards. If you have an advisory board, this format, the format of a same page meeting, the EOS format is incredibly powerful for putting structure behind those meetings. And I know several companies that have implemented that to great success.
Yeah.
Just other ways to think about this.
Sweet. Thanks for saying so. The meeting agenda is completely modular. So there is the level 10 standard pure agenda, and there is the same page meeting pure agenda. But I have one same page meeting I'm in that I've added the scorecard to it. Because we know every time that I'm together with this partner of mine in a different business, we want to look at the scorecard. And so rather than going to search for it, we added it. And so that meeting agenda that is on the left-hand side when you're in a meeting with Interaction Tools, if you go into advanced settings, you can add or subtract any of those agenda items. I'm not advocating for anything being impure, but there are some things that you can do to modify that to fit your needs exactly. Kathy, yeah.
Hi, Todd.
Hey, Pam.
You had just said that you go through the check-in, you build the issues list, and you do IDS. And you just said you could add additional pieces. So when you're doing to-dos, do you add to-dos in there as well as let's go through them, or are you just assuming they're getting done?
No, I would add to-dos to it too if you want to check in the next time that you're together.
Right, it feels very much like an L10 when you're really adding the scorecard, adding to-dos. It's pretty similar.
So the pure same page meeting would just be check in, build issues, solve issues, get back to work. Yeah. It is modular. You're going to do whatever you want to do with it. It doesn't matter what I say from the podium, right? You're going to get in there and you're going to figure out what works best for you. And I just want to be an advocate for you doing it as close to pure as it's written in the book as possible, because there's a lot of wisdom. 7,000 some companies now running it on a pure basis. There's a lot of wisdom that's been generated between that. So I want to talk about more level 10s. I love fire. And maybe some friends of mine would say I'm a bit of a pyromaniac. And I believe in the organization that as you roll out level 10s to another layer down in the organization, it's like bringing gasoline to a fire that's already burning. It does not take a long time for it to start creating value. It starts creating value almost immediately in there. And you've decided at some point about how far level 10s should go throughout your organization. I want to be an advocate for you re-looking at this conversation and deciding if they can go one more layer down in any given department. Some departments, they will be 3 and 4 layers deep, and other departments, they'll just be 1 layer deep. It does not have to be equal across the board. But please, as you're investing in EOS, please be using the level 10, this super powerful meeting agenda, as deep into the organization as you can. That's all I want to touch on for this. If you're coming away from the conference and you're looking for your takeaways over this next couple days, go back and see, is there any place else that we can be rolling that out? So let's talk about some new features and things that are coming. Let me look at my good time check. We're doing perfect on time. So, people tools. This is a second area that I have to humbly admit to us not being perfect. So we have people tools. This company was originally started doing employee reviews more than 4 years ago. 4 years ago is when we became a level 10 meeting agenda as well as an EOS focused piece of software. Prior to that, Jay and Clay were working together on a company that's called Radio Review. It's still our legal entity, and that was an employee review software. So it's been around for the whole time that we've been around. Our people tools are currently out there, and we have a bunch. I'm sure a bunch of you in the room are on the beta of the people tools. It was always our intention that the people tools get really great and that it becomes an additional upsell for us, as it's something that you would pay extra for. Nobody has paid extra for it yet to this day, primarily because we're not proud of the complexity of the tool. We're not shy about charging for things. If we felt it was worth it, we'd be charging you right now. We just don't feel it's worth it, and we don't know when or if it will be worth it. If you're currently using it and you're happy being a beta client, please continue using it, continue giving us feedback. But there's a whole handful of issues that you've told us about and that we realize. We use the tools ourselves. There's a whole handful of issues that we know exist about the people tools. If you're not using the people tools and you're just lukewarm about it, don't come investigate and become a customer of it right now. You can if you want to. I mean, I don't think we're saying no to the companies that want to dive into it. What it is primarily is it's intended to be a simple way to track all your quarterly conversations. The quarterly conversations in the book is referred to as the 555. This is the one-on-one between every boss and employee inside the organization. They happen 4 times a year. And you talk about rocks, roles, and values. Rocks, your special projects, roles, your regular job as articulated on the scorecard and the accountability chart, and the values, how well you're fit in our culture. And they are really sweet. I would call these quarterly conversations love fests. That once you do the first 2 or 3 of them, as long as you don't call them reviews and you don't talk about compensation, they become this super awesome part of how you coach your direct reports to be better. And they give you some feedback as how you're being as their boss too. But really it's about you coaching all your direct reports 4 times a year just to be a better fit on how they do their regular job, how they do their special projects, and how they fit the culture. And all that we've been working toward is to be a simple tool where you can document these conversations and do a little bit of prep. Frankly, they don't take much preparation at all, so it would just be a place for you to document them. There's a few people in here that are in an HR seat, I'm sure. HR loves to document stuff, and that's just how this is intended. And we've always intended to make it simpler and provide you some back end and some documentation for it. And I'd say that we have failed at making it simpler. And we're on like the 3rd or 4th iteration of this. And so that's what I have to say about the people tools. I'm happy to take questions about them. Well, maybe not happy, but I'm willing to take questions about them. It is a part of, as we work furiously to make your lives better as leaders and to make the software as great as possible, this is one place that's been a frustration. And if Clay was talking about it, he'd probably be using more vivid language, as he's been the one that's been on the front line of this. Does anybody have a comment or a question about the people tools piece of the software? Yes. Tell us a story about a client of yours that loves it.
I thought the quarterly conversations...
Tell the team you're an implementer and stuff and who you are. Yeah.
I'm not an implementer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm an integrator.
I thought you were somebody else. I'm sorry from this distance. Welcome to being 50.
But it's... Now, what was I talking about?
Sorry. My fault.
Yeah, the quarterly conversations is that it's 3 times a year you go out and have that quarterly conversation. The annual you document, the quarterlies you don't document.
There's all kinds of, yeah. So what I preach to my clients is that the quarterly conversations are 4 times a year and that there's an additional conversation about a raise or compensation.
Okay.
But it may exist differently out there in the world.
So are you rating them every quarter? I mean, are you going through a rating process? Like, if you read, the book "How to Be a Great Boss," it talks about that it's, the annual review is when you do that annual rating, and the other 3 times you're out just doing a conversation.
Yeah.
Out for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's meant to be a more casual approach to how you coach your direct reports. So. And I preach it 4 times a year plus the conversation about a raise, but maybe some people preach it 3 times a year and then the 4th time is the raise conversation. The raise conversation always has some anxiety in it and people are not as open and honest. They're much more likely to promote their positives than talk about their negatives, and you need to have a conversation with all your direct reports about the positives and negatives that are going on. What I want you to get clearly from this and how I opened up the session 2 about our engineering department is we are living EOLS within Traction Tools. We are just completely committed to being open and honest with you as our users. We listen all the time. We really, really care about how this goes. So please give us feedback. Please count on us being honest with you about what's working and what's not working also. We're not here to blow sunshine up your ass. Quarterly printouts. So everybody's using these at their quarterly. I had mentioned it earlier today already once. These are on the path to being presentation quality. Of course, you can put your logo in there and you can modify it to be with your company colors, all that stuff you can do right now, and they look good. But there is some point in the future that you're going to be able to go and print these documents out of Traction Tools and put them in your board packet and take them to a board meeting and feel proud of how it looks without running it by graphic design first. And the secondary nice thing is that when we're in our quarterly offsites together with the team, the documents that we have on paper in front of us will also be really sweet, easy to read, logically laid out documents, even more so than they are now. I'm excited about how they are right now, and these will just continue to get better and more presentable over time. So look forward to that. And if you don't have your logo and your colors updated in here, have that be some fun thing that you go do after the conference. Go get your logo and your colors in here. API and integrations. So this is something that we've been working on for a long time and is also on the near soon agenda. What's define near soon back in the corner?
These features are completed. They just need to be documented.
So that means that all the code is complete and has been audited for quality, and then we just need the documentation about how to use this. And so what I want to do right now is share about the possibilities, because I have a number of my clients that have integrated Traction Tools with other tools within their system. I'm sorry, what's the name of the tool that we're working within?
Well,
Zapier.
Yeah, integrations, but Zapier is the tool commonly used.
Yeah, and so that'll be a part of the integrations that we already have developed. What it's going to do, and so most of my clients that want to integrate Traction Tools with some other business system are doing it to influence the scorecard. So that you have an ERP or an accounting piece of software or a CRM that's tracking sales performance, and you want to take this ERP or accounting software or CRM and say all the data's already there. Why the heck am I having somebody every week go and take data from one system and put it in this other system so we can have this meeting and look at it? And that is soon going to be something that you can go ahead and integrate. If you are fairly new to doing EOS, say if you're in your first year, please don't do an integration. My experience with scorecards are that they get iterated upon all the time, especially in the first 12 months of doing it. Don't do an integration and then change your scorecard up and cause yourself a lot of extra work. Wait until the part of the journey where your scorecard is set and that you are confident that this is the scorecard and these metrics are always going to be on there before you go through the work of integrating these things. What we want to capture, and somebody from Traction Tools will write down as you shout these things out. So I'm looking around for the person with a pen in their hand. Clay's got it. I want to know the top 20 systems that you're using that you would love to make sure are on our radar for integration. The top 20 things. Just give me the things that you're using where you think, man, I have data in that system, and I would love it if it automatically showed up in Traction Tools, either people headlines or scorecard or issues somehow. Go ahead. Which systems?
Jared Hollinger, Omaha. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Just a quick, I guess, ask or comment on the Zapier function. We've used Zapier through our platform we use for all of our workflow.
Yeah.
To the point where we were pushing about 1.2 million zaps a month.
Wow.
And have recently switched through that platform to another one called Workato.
Okay.
Workato. That's much more robust, much better serviced, much better in every regard.
Okay.
So as you're developing this, I would encourage you to explore that.
Workato.
So we get to the I guess the best in class, without having to go through some of those hurdles that another one of our vendors went through.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, moving on. Document repository. This is, so within Traction Tools, I have a list of things that I want to talk about here. This is a place that for no extra charge, you're going to be able to store a bunch of different types of documents. So, your core process documents being one that we get requests for all the time. And this will be a place that you can go, and whether or not whatever format you have those in or what kind of documents, we're going to have a file structure that we believe is the simplest, most clear file structure that you could have. as well as a way that the versioning is tracked. I know with shared drives, shared drives are a nightmare, right? Because, I don't know, I hear a rock about once a year from every one of my clients that says, oh, somebody's going to take a rock and go clean up and organize the shared drive. And nobody wants the rock. And it's like a hot potato in that session. And so we know that this is an issue. I've experienced the frustration myself before. And so a super simple file structure that's accessible multiple different ways rather than just one path. And that there's a versioning in there, so as you update a core process, you don't have to worry about like, oh, is this the new one or is this the old one? It'll be a no-brainer that you can keep track of that. The other things that are going to be automatically in here is access to your past VTOs. We have some requests that they like, man, I'd love to see the version of our VTO from a year ago today, or from this quarter last year, or from this quarter 2 years ago, and I want to see what, and in particular, could I see my 3-year picture from 3 years ago? Does anybody know where that version of it is, or did we just erase it as we went and updated it every year? Man, I'd love to see the 3-year picture from 3 years ago and see how close we are to it. I have to say I am completely enchanted with the 3-year picture. Whatever I can vividly visualize and then enroll my whole organization in comes true over and over and over, almost right on time, like somewhere between 2.5 and 3 years. All the dreams from the vivid visualization or the 3-year picture are coming true, and it's like a magic tool. Please be sharing that with all your people. All good goal setting has some function like this, but you have to make sure that it's a vivid visualization and you enroll others. If you don't get other people enrolled in the vision, it doesn't work. That's part of the magic. And it takes more than you mentioning it at the quarterly, at the state of the company 4 times a year to get people enrolled. You have to do more than that. So that's the past VTOs. You'll also be able to see past rocks, past quarterly printouts. You'll be able to go back and say, hey, I'd love to see what our quarterly printout looked like this time last year and compare some year over year. And you may have this in other systems, but just know it's going to be some of the default things that'll be in this document repository that'll be easy to find. And you'll be able to put some elevate and delegate tools in there, whether or not that's documents that you've developed yourself and you're just using this to store them. And at some point in the more far future, we'll have some simplified outlines for delegate and elevate that'll fit in there. Not going to be tools that are complex, just simple places that everybody could find their elevate and delegate, and constantly be taking stuff from the lower right-hand quadrant and reallocating time to the upper left. Clarity break documentation can be in there. Photos from offsites or photos of your boards from the offsites. The people or the boards could all be easily in there, so you had them from every offsite. Go ahead.
Just wondering, as far as repository, comparing line items from your scorecard. So if you wanted to compare your revenue as it rolled throughout the year for over the last 5 years and just see those particular line items, is that something that's on your radar or possible? Or if you wanted to compare AR to the same date every your whole quarter's AR when you're setting goals?
I think you can do it by exporting historic data that's in Traction Tools. Can you repeat the question, and can I throw it over to Isaiah or to Clay over here for a more intelligent answer?
Yeah, individual line items. So if you had a line item that was, say, AR, and you wanted to look at the last 5 years where you were at this point in the same week, or compare them, or, I mean, basically taking, if you think of it as a spreadsheet, different sheets for different line items of the scorecard. Is that possible?
It's not possible directly through the software. The easiest thing for you to do would be to export the scorecard to a CSV, and then you'd be able to compare the data with the standard formulas in Excel.
But can you get the same lines together from different years, or do you have to manually break it all apart and then put it back together?
With enough Excel foo, you can do that, but this is not a feature that's in the software.
When you can export, and Clay, correct me if I'm misspeaking on any of this, but you can export your scorecard for any date range that you want into a CSV file and then manipulate it in Excel however you want, right? Can you go back to the beginning of your use of Traction Tools in your export?
Yes, that's right.
So if you've been in Traction Tools for 2 or 3 years, and you can export that all to Excel and have at your data. And you can use formulas then once you're in Excel that are not supported within the software too. Other questions about this or about the documents repository? Do we have any idea, some version of soon on the document repository? Okay. So that's something different than the near future. I don't know exactly what that is. Yeah, go ahead.
So in the level 10, you can go to the accountability chart and the VTO with the little shortcut on the side.
Yeah.
Will the core process depository be accessible there for when you're IDSing?
I don't think that we've decided, but that seems like a really logical place for it, right?
Because otherwise we end up going to our shared, file system and get it while we're IDSing. So.
Yeah, and this would be logical that you could get to all, not just the core processes, but a lot of the things we mentioned you may want to get to in IDSing. Yeah. Other questions on this, the document repository? So is anybody in the room a member of YPO or EO or these organizations? You are. One thing that I wanted to mention is that for the peer groups that you're a part of, hey Ed. How you doing? Doing well. If they want to use Traction Tools to run their board meetings, we'll give them a free account to use Traction Tools to do that. And so we have a bunch of those organizations that are using it that way and find it to be a really high value way to run their board meetings. So that's all I want to talk about during this. Yes,
and
Greg.
if you're on the board of a nonprofit, we also provide the software free for that board as well.
There you go.